So this is the first time I'm exhibiting my work as art. Usually they're part of my books and never ever show my work outside my books. So it's a little, because they're always with text. And so I call it MYTrutH, and if you can look, those who like fonts will see it's a play on alphabets. It's myth, and that's how I define MYTrutH. Myth is people's truths. Whatever you believe in is your myth. Everybody else will consider it a lie, but it's true for you, right? And so that's what I'm saying. Your truth is valid, but incomplete. So if you remember this in your life, you'll be very happy that what you know is the truth, but it is not complete. You need to know more truths in order to complete your truth. So read my books. Yeah. So this is Noah's Ark. It was my favorite artwork. So this is Noah's Ark, but I did it in an Indian style. As you can see, it could be a rishi or anything. So both to help couples escape the flood. I get a feeling many spouses would like to jump into the waters. But if you have been in a relationship, you know what I'm talking about. Single people, just be aware. But this is, basically Noah's Ark. This was part of my book Eden. And you look at this. I don't want to discuss it too much, but the flames over here, this style of showing in Islamic lore, prophet, the Noah is a prophet, so it's Paigambar Nuh. And although in Islam you do not do artwork, during the Mongol rule of Iran, they used Buddhist art, and in Buddhist art they would use fire to show someone powerful. So fire was used by the Islamic artists to depict for the first time Paigambar, so I use that. So there are a lot of little details in this that, this is really a boat of reed, how it is made. So, but since it's a walkthrough, I'm just going to take you a little bit here and there. So this line, that which eats, that which is eaten, is from the Vedas, by the way. This is a Vedic line, but it is also, if you look at this picture, that which eats is the human being. That which is eaten is the goat. This is the sacrifice scene with Abraham as being asked to sacrifice his son. And he has a choice between sacrificing his son and sacrificing the goat. The Bakra Eid story. This is the Bakra Eid story. And it is a reminder that the goat eats the plant and we eat the goat. And if you don't want to eat the goat, you can eat the plant. But you will always eat. And if you eat, you will get eaten. So, yeah, phones on silent. Thank you. Look below always at the earth, because you will find Lakshmi's footprints and other footprints everywhere. So it's just to remind us of Indian art is also done on walls, it is done on the floor, rangoli, and it's okay to step on it. But then I don't know what Lakshmi will do to you, so you decide. So these are how the original look. So I don't really do canvas work I do it on just regular paper, and I just paint it with, nowadays I'm using a lot of iPad, so you'll not find any, but previously I used to do it on paper with just pen and ink, and I would throw them away. So if you see over here, there are these marks like 19A is for my designer to scan it and put it in 19A of my book. So you can see these are all work which is used, how it looks originally, and then we made a digital print on cloth. And Kunal here, you'll see Kunal in a white kurta. He's the curator. So there he is. So he came up with that. We decided he said, let's do it on cloth and hang it with these brass rods. So otherwise, this is how they would originally look. That's the Last Supper. And as you can see, they all look like Indian kings. Again, food is flesh, flesh is food. So all food that you eat turns into your flesh, and your flesh is someone's food. So the Last Supper from the New Testament, this whole idea. Now if you look at all these kings, the reason I've done the Indian style is somebody decided Jesus should look like a European. So if Europeans can decide Jesus can look like a European, then Indians can decide he looks like a Malayali gentleman, related to Mala maybe. Or maybe Bengal. These are all his 12 disciples from different parts of India. So you can imagine it. The only problem is there are no women here, typical. So it's like it's just to make you think about it in a different way. Where's the woman? Clearly, I have not drawn the moustache. But you can call it a woman. In the Last Supper, there were no women. So that's why. So I can't change that. Now it's postmodern and everything, but not that much. Anyone knows what this is? This is Shah Bangali. Jungle ka Raja. Shah Jangali, sorry, not Bengali, but Shah. He is from the Bon Bibi stories from Sundarbans. And there are many such stories. There is not just one, but these are Peer Babas from the Sundarban areas. And I was surprised that there were so many stories of Ghazis. They ride on crocodiles, they have snakes in their hand, they ride tigers, they are considered peers. But in the Orthodox Islam, this would be considered to be unacceptable. But in the local Islamic traditions of Bengal, you have all these characters emerging. Right now, of course, Bangladesh, all kinds of unpleasant stories we are hearing. But the airport in Dhaka, if I'm not mistaken, is named after a Ghazi who came traveling from Mecca on a flying carpet. So they said we should name the airport after the first flying carpet. So these are the stories like that. So these stories are now, they say in the 19th century, even in the Bangladesh area, they suppressed these stories saying this is haram, this is shirk. So they rejected these stories, but still now you find these works. So you find them if you travel through Bangladesh, everything. There's Buddha's footprint. See, the moment I say it, people will walk around it. So you can see how many people. That's Lajja Gauri, the earth goddess. Come. So Lajja Gauri, this goddess which you see over here, I'm calling her Lajja Gauri. We really don't know what her name was. These terracotta images were found across the Deccan region around till 500 AD. After that, you don't find these images. And nobody knows what they were called. But the archaeologist was very embarrassed by this image. So he decided to call her Lajja Gauri. So Lajja Gauri is not how this image is identified or its worshippers, but because the archaeologists were male, they got embarrassed and they decided to call her, and even now everybody calls it Lajja Gauri. There's a standard name given, so that's how names are given. Be careful of names because these were not the original names. We don't know what they were called. It could be anything. Somebody told me it is a mother, but is it a mother? Because if you look carefully, it could also be a lover. It could be a woman who is predigal. So it could be anything. Mother, lover, before conception, during conception, during delivery. It can be any of that. So it's like the lotus flower. So there is a lot of lotus image. It's clearly a fertility image, but we don't know whether she is she's the bride or she's the mother. That is open to readings. What is interesting is the face has been wiped out. The face is not there. The identity is not being given. And there are many reasons for that. But for that, you have to, again, as I said, essays. And if you don't want to buy a book, you can go to devdutt.com, reverse search this image, you'll get an article on it. So this has a very famous history. I don't know if many of you all know that the Supreme Court of India, the Constitution of India for 70 years decided that gay people are not part of Indian tradition. So Constitution of India is quite strange. It keeps changing on what Indian tradition is every few years. So it's a dynamic document, and somebody had made this comment that it is not part of Indian culture, and that time I had written an essay called on Krishna's chariot stands Shikhandi, and that became a very famous document at that time. So this is Shikhandi on Krishna's chariot, and that's Arjun and that's Hanuman. So I'm saying the gods have no problem with Shikhandi. Shikhandi would be, today we would call a trans person. So she would be female to male, trans. So this would be the story. And I did this. And why I'm calling it the queer who helped win the war is because he's responsible for the death of Bhishma Pitama. And that's the 9th day of the war, which is 18-day war right in the middle, 9th day. So it is not accidental. It's obviously a design. 9 days of war and then this Shikhandi appears. So that's the story. This is part of the same collection, queer collection. So is it a male or a female? How do you imagine yourself? How does the world see you? So you decide. What is the reflection? What is the reality? As you can see, I do from all mythologies from around the world. Indian, you saw biblical. This is from Jain mythology. And this is just a pilgrim spot. This is how, if somebody traveled to a pilgrim spot in India, they would come back with these images so that everybody could worship the image and say that, okay, this is, I visited Palitana or I visited Girnar. So atop a hill sits a sage guarded by a goddess. So there would always be a yakshi over here, and there's a yaksha, and they guard this shrine. Yeah, just tell somebody to tell them to be quiet. I think we need a whistle. That is a story of the Jain story of Balram, Krishna's elder brother. He's said to be so handsome that when he would meditate facing people, the women would stop working. So he decided not to disturb the women with his beauty, and he turned his face around to meditate. So in Indian culture, we don't just talk about beautiful women, because right there, if you look on that side, that's a beautiful woman from a Buddhist stupa, but this talks about beautiful men. And so I wanted to draw attention that in India, beauty is not just feminine, it's also male, but it's told in such a beautiful story that, I mean, the story is quite elaborate. The women get so distracted by his beauty that instead of tying a thread around a pot, she ties the thread around her own child's neck. And not wanting to kill the child, Balram said, okay, my beauty is disturbing everyone, I'll turn around. So these stories you find a lot around the world, but with women. Rarely with men, but in the Jain tradition, the male is there. That's, of course, the famous Buddhist Yakshi. I had done this as part of my book, Shikhandi. Next to it, there was a line which we have not put it here. Here, I've just said, her touch made the tree bloom. But the original line which I had put next to it is, never take advice of sex from celibate men. In India, yeah? So in India, celibate men give you a lot of sexual advice. It's terrible. You'll go that side. So we have done the biblical traditions, Jain traditions, Buddhist traditions. This is from Greek traditions. That's the Trojan horse. So I imagine if Trojan horse was an Indian horse, what would they do? Because they worshipped the Trojan horse. So you can see a lot of flowers, and you can see all the soldiers looking out, and there's a flowers over there, and that's the Trojan horse, using an Indian style. This is the Maynards. I don't know if you know about this story. It's about Bacchus. When Bacchus reaches Europe and he spreads his idea of alcohol and all kinds of things, nowadays we call it a rave party. And the thing is, by the way, the rave party is very different. The mothers go to the rave party, not the children. And the children try to censor it, and this is what happens to children who try to censor their mothers. They are eaten alive. So these are the mothers eating the king who says, no parties in my kingdom. And the women of Bacchus eat him alive. So just drawing attention to the yoginis of Europe. Yeah, these are the yoginis of Europe. So I find it very exciting. And the thing is, Bacchus is supposed to be in Greek mythology coming from India. And many people have argued that he's Dionysus and Shiva, and the Shiva traditions traveled, because all exotic things have to come from the East, which is not quite true. But it's a good story to tell. If you want to feel proud about India, we can tell all these things. We introduced alcohol to the West. They got corrupted because of us. This is from Brahmana literature. So these are paintings from the Vedic traditions. And you may see this image and you may think it is from the Purans. Those who are familiar with the Vishnu Puran, this is the first story, a Matsya Avatar story, where a small fish is saved from the big fish by being put in a pot. You seen this picture? But the original story is even before Vishnu. This comes from old Vedic traditions. As you can see, I'm more into the storytelling part. I'm not interested in the art so much. But the art is trying to explain that idea. And if you look at this image, over here is a woman holding her own head. This is the story of Renuka. We have all heard of how Sita's story, right? Sita's story of people think that she may not have been faithful. So she is stained reputation. She has done nothing but stained reputation. In this case, she desires a man for 1 second. For 1 second, she has an extramarital desire. Her husband tells her head should be chopped off. So that's the story over here, this Renuka. Then this is the story, right opposite. So this is the story of infidelity, momentary infidelity. Over here is the story of fidelity. So these are two gods who come to this beautiful woman and say, we'll make your old husband young, provided you can distinguish him from us. So all three beautiful men stand in front of this lady and say that, okay, decide who your husband is. And she looks at the ground and says, the gods don't step on the ground. So I know who my husband is. His feet are on the ground. And the gods say, but you could choose a husband from the gods. Why did you choose a human? The answer is not given, but I suspect it is because he will one day die. See, someone got it. This is Bakasur. Nowadays, you have heard of greedy people, but nowadays we don't call them greedy people, we call them ambitious people. So this is ambitious people. All people who are ambitious, they're actually, we don't use the word greedy anymore. It is politically incorrect. So we say ambition, aspiration, not greedy. So that's how he looks. That's from Egyptian mythology. In most cultures, the sky is considered to be male and the earth is considered to be female. Egypt is the only culture where it's the opposite. The sky is seen as female and the earth is seen as male. So henna amazing?
Any particular reason for that?
The reasons are sexual. I don't want to go there, so it's Biennale, we don't want to get into trouble. So we'll now go to the last section. So that's Laja Gauri, that's another footprint. So this is like the Antapur. So that was the Mandapa, and this is the Antaralaya, and this is the end, the last. I need, yeah. So this is famous in Bengal. This is Keshto Kali. This is Krishna and Kali together, merged, one vegetarian, the other non-vegetarian. So we don't know, depending on many parts of the country, this image will be considered very, very scary, but it is a very Indian art. By the way, if you look carefully at the floor, you will see a bird's footprint. There is a tiger's footprint, and the tiger is chasing the cow's footprint. So the predator and the prey and the food and the flesh themes are everywhere. This is Bhima killing Kichaka, and he's cross-dressing. So this is like I wanted to show how I use stylized to show. These are all traditional techniques of showing things. So always two-dimensional, never three-dimensional, used a lot of impressionist style to show something. This is Bhima cross-dressing. That is Bhima being shown that there are people who are stronger than him. That's Hanuman. So Bhima and Hanuman, and then Hanuman comes again. And we always, famous for his strength, we forget that he's also a poet in Sanskrit. And he's also a musician. So when we think of warriors, we don't think of musicians. When we think of a diplomat, we don't think of a poet. And then, of course, you don't think of a monkey. So Valmiki is trying to tell you something. Like, do not judge people by the way they look and what they eat. And over there is what inspired Shah Rukh Khan. That's an image of Shiva from Vietnam. And as you can see, that's the Shah Rukh Khan pose. So we can say everything comes from India, or actually Vietnam. And behind that is Vishwaroop. That's Krishna containing the whole world inside him, and the whole world is him. So this is an idea. So that's my exhibition. That's the walkthrough.
Super.